one seems to want to talk about how big of a deal it is. Um, Welcome back to Total Disclosure, everybody. My name's Ty. This is brought to you by Pop Culture Corner Studios, and we are so happy to be here tonight. Unfortunately, we're doing this for members only tonight, but it will go live public everywhere tomorrow. I'm joined by, U.S. Navy veteran, author, and ufologist, Mr. Thomas. Is it How do you pronounce the last name, just so I can make sure it's right?
Okay, it's Conwell. Conwell.
Conwell. So Thomas Conwell. You've had an illustrious career, my friend. I find it funny, not funny, but you see this common theme amongst military personnel that leave the military and develop a fascination with ufology and kind of dedicate the rest of their lives to it. It seems I'm talking to someone. It seems like I'm talking to someone like that tonight. I've used this example all the time. How did you get into it?
Okay. Well, I've always been interested in UFOs. I had an interest in the cosmos when I was a teenager, and that came from my aunt. And my aunt was a secretary for the Astronomical League of America, and I was able to go with her to all of her annual conferences, and
Oh,
that was a lot of fun. I learned a lot doing that. Met a whole lot of very interesting people. Some I'm sure turned out to be famous, but I was a teenager. I was more interested in myself and getting fed, you know.
right,
But
right.
yeah, but there's not much else I can tell you about that time. That set my interest. Um, and of course, then um, I joined the Navy. Life
Can I
got in the way. I was
Right.
married, had a couple of kids, and I made it all the way through um, retirement. And when I retired, then I found myself bored as all get out. I was looking for something to do, and,
Right,
uh, and I joined a paranormal team, and they got into UFOs, and I really got into UFOs at that point,
right.
and I haven't let up since.
And like I said, it's a common theme.
Mhm.
Again, a friend of mine, Kevin Day of now famous Tic Tac encounter, the UFO encounter. He was bullied almost out of the Navy, and he took a look at his life and now is dedicating it to all of this. And you hear that common theme.
Mhm.
Now in the Navy, is there anything that you ever saw or can talk about that isn't of the ordinary?
Um, no.
No.
But back then, I wasn't paying attention to anything.
Right.
I was having fun playing golf, and that was my interest. And
And that was it.
yeah, really,
It's
I
easy.
didn't really care about anything else.
Right. And that's the thing about UFOs is, just let's talk. Because I don't know if I like calling it UFO, the UFO community, but just the otherworldly. I think there's such a, it's so easy to forget sometimes because life, like you said, life goes on. Not every day. It's not like sports or even movies. There's not news every single day about it. Fortunately, at the end of this month, we have the UAP report. Is that something that you're eyeing and interested in?
Well, we'll wait and see what happens when it comes out. I'm not I'm not holding my breath. The
Right.
last one was pretty much a bust,
It was
and I expect this one to be pretty much a
well,
bust.
Why do you think I always kind of start down this path with every guest, but why do you think the reason is for the secrecy within the government? Why do you think this topic specifically is of the utmost above top secret?
Yeah. Well, there's potentially several reasons for this. One of the bigger reasons can be that they've held it secret for so long, from back in the late 40s, when they really knew something was going on and didn't say anything, and they were struck stuck to secrecy, and didn't didn't say a thing about it until really recently. Well,
Right.
the
And
reason
and
they
it,
didn't say anything until recently um, is because um, they they had started out not saying anything. And if they all of a sudden said, "Oh yeah, we've known since the 40s," and everybody would be saying, "Well, why didn't you tell us?"
right.
There was a lot of that kind of reasoning going on. And now that we hit about 2017, when the first article came out in New York
The New
Times.
York Times and
Yeah,
Politico, yeah.
yeah, and um, the recent release of the Tic Tac, then um,
Can I interject for 1 second?
go for it.
When that video came out, when you first saw the Tic Tac, the gimbal, and the Go Fast, did it feel, because you had been in the UFO community for so long at that point, did you feel kind of vindicated?
No,
Nothing?
no. Um, I thought it was interesting that they are releasing what they're releasing as they're releasing it, but vindicated, I wouldn't have gone that far, because I didn't feel like it was enough.
Oh, you not. Can I ask what would be enough?
Um, an
Would it be
actual
a direct
statement.
disclosure?
Yeah, an actual statement of disclosure, saying that we've been looking at these things for 70 years, and we've been expecting them to make some sort of a splash somewhere. So, and this is what we have. That's what I really was hoping for.
Right.
um, I think what's going to happen is, down the road, I think that we will be treated to something from NASA that will say, um, you know, I think we heard uh, some radio signal
Transmission. Yeah.
from XYZ planet out in the star system, from one of the stars in the Pleiades, and we're trying to translate it, just to get
Right.
everybody interested. And slowly but surely they'll be translating, and slowly but surely it will be saying something more and more revealing, and then maybe by that point, they can actually show their face and say, "Yeah, here we are. We just discovered you. We didn't even know you were there." Something stupid like that.
You know what, that really is a plausible thing, though. If
Yeah.
anyone was going to disclose, oh my god, if anyone was going to, sorry about that, if anyone was going to disclose that they pick something up again, it would be NASA, and that's maybe that would ease the public's mind, because I think one thing we all get nervous about is, if the president did come out and make a press conference that, ladies and gentlemen, we're not alone. I think a lot of people's world would break down, whether it be religious or spirit. What do you think would happen if that kind of disclosure was afoot?
Okay. Well, there could very well be some people who would get seriously upset, especially at their religious leaders, who would go out of the way to not say anything. Um, but there'd be some that have gone out of their way to say something, and said that they believed in extraterrestrial life all along,
The
and this
Pope,
is just their vindication. Well,
the
yeah,
Pope even said it at this
yeah,
point. He said,
the
they're God, they're children of God as well.
sure. The Catholic Church was one of the big one. Father Guy Consamo, I think his name is. He's their astronomer, and they've been tiptoeing around the um, the
The
extraterrestrial
situation.
contact nature for quite a while, for
Right.
probably about 8 or 9 years now.
Right. And
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 they'll be one of the first ones to say, "See, we told you so." And then everybody else will be saying, "We thought that all along, but we were afraid to say so." And then
that's what
everybody would say, "Oh, well, of course they're here."
right. Right.
What do you expect?
Now, you said that you used a key phrase there. Of course, they're here. Do you think they're among us?
Oh, absolutely.
So walking.
Yeah.
I'm just going to use this example. I know it's really stupid, but say they're walking with us in Times Square, kind of deal.
Hmm. Oh, sure. Sure.
Really,
There's probably tens of thousands of them.
I would love to hear your theory on this, a little bit more in depth, because I I I I guess maybe I am a little blocked in that nature. I've never personally seen a UFO. I thought I did, but I grew up next to an Air Force base, so it could have been anything. Um, I
Yeah,
just don't
really.
know. I've never seen. Yeah, so I'm very interested in that because that's a whole different ball game.
Yeah. Yeah. What is being seen over military bases uh, may be a combination of what has landed here, what has crashed here, what is being exchanged with the people here, and any number of other things.
And okay, so how would they now? Do they have some sort of? Do you think they would have some sort of ability to look more like us, or do you think that
You mean
they're
as in shape shifting?
maybe potentially
Hmm.
if that's there's been talk about how they could change your perception of themselves to make you feel a little bit easier about it.
Well, could be. I've had quite a few dreams at night that have been very, very weird, where um, I have been exposed to some things that were just generally false, that never really happened. Um, I don't know if my thoughts um, were being
Manipulated.
yeah, by someone. I just didn't know. Um, but it's been weird enough that I'm certainly doubting my own reality at times. So
Right. And that can be a little scary because I've had similar situations where I feel I feel like I'm here, but I also feel like I'm somewhere else, and
yeah.
can be um it's almost like out of touch with reality.
Hmm.
But I quickly snap back. It just takes a couple breathing exercises, and I was always so embarrassed about it, and I didn't know who to talk about it to. And then the UFO community is has been really helpful with that.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I think once you believe and you open yourself to the possibilities, that's when the possibilities become real.
Right. What now when you were first starting to write books, what was the first book that you wrote? I'm sorry, I had the titles written down.
That's okay. The first book was "They Are Here," um, Volume One, East Coast UFOs. That's the book right there.
So, yep, so
Yep,
I'm Boston, you're New York, I assume, right?
yep, yep, yep.
Um,
And all the way down the East Coast and a little bit wrapping around the Gulf Coast.
Now can you tell me more about the East Coast? Is there a difference? I've always heard that we see more orbs in the East Coast, and then, there's discs in the Midwest. there's specific sets. Is there any data to support that?
Yes, there is. Um, Initially, depending on the years, there were large concentrations of certain kinds of things seen in the sky in various states. And the things that varied were based on their location, which particular state, if they were on the ocean or a lake, and there's a whole lot of variables. Um, the uh, orb kind of sightings, and those can be like in great big circular orbs, or they can be in fireballs or other types of things that are similar. Um, Now, the central US has a combination of the orbs because of the um, infiltration from the Gulf Coast and from the Great Lakes. Um, and the West Coast has a whole lot more triangles and uh, things like that that you will see, and you can actually see that when you look at my map, and you see a predominant color in one section and a sort of a almost a mix in the middle and another predominant color in the other section. It's very interesting.
I've always been, because I live in Boston. I live in, I'd say it's the heart of the city. And obviously we're not going to see much here. There's so much light pollution.
Yeah.
And I honestly, in Boston, I just haven't heard a lot of reports of UFOs. So I'm not sure if they just don't like us, or it is what it is. But that's why I want to travel more to like the Midwest and stay
Yeah.
there for weeks at a time. But
No,
have you
Boston is loaded.
you think now? Can you
Oh,
tell me more?
absolutely. Oh, yeah. Um, one of the bigger areas of sightings is in New York City. You ever been around New York City?
Yes.
There's nothing but light.
Right. Exactly.
And these things, for all intents and purposes, uh, are close enough that they make themselves known.
And have you ever seen anything
Yes.
over the city?
Yeah.
Now, how would it? Because I feel like if something was flying over the city, like that's got to be dangerous for whatever entity is inside the craft. Because I mean, you're flying over the heart of the East Coast at that point.
No, don't think they sense any danger whatsoever.
Well,
I
not
think they have.
dangerous, but you know what I mean. Like it's very easy to be seen when you fly over a city like New York City. So
Okay.
they got to be doing, at least allowing us to see them for a reason.
Well, absolutely. Yeah, they've been slowly revealing themselves to us city by city, all across our country, including all across Canada and Central America and South America and Europe and everything else,
Right.
one at a time. And that's their plan, to
Do you?
make it so that there's so many sightings and so many people have seen things in the sky that when they finally say, we finally made contact, and I think they're going to show up in 6 months, everybody's going to say, well, gee, I saw one 4 years
Right.
ago, and I
Right.
saw one 3 years ago. And, then they're going to realize, well, that's probably nonsense.
Do you remember? Obviously, you remember the famous Phoenix Lights.
Oh, yes.
And
Yeah.
that's a very, very, very interesting case, just because thousands of people saw it. The governor, Fife Symington, made a mockery of it at first, but now has since come out and said, he saw it as well, and he
Hmm.
believes it's an alien spacecraft.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's really all the proof we need right there. I do
Well,
you
you'd
why
think, but
you think so, right?
yeah. Yeah, they aren't gonna people who don't believe that UFOs are indeed from um, an extraterrestrial source and that they're actually visiting here. It doesn't matter what you say to them, what they see in the air, or anything else. It won't matter
Right. Right.
because they're going to have their opinion. There's a
And
very much like politics in that if you have a political opinion, your political opinion is going to stand no matter what that person does.
right. And do you have, have you ever thought about the connection between, why are they here? Why Earth of all places? Because I've been thinking about this for quite some time now, and it there's got to be, say they came from the Zeta Reticuli or the Pleiades. How do you say it? Pleiades.
Pleiades,
Pleiades.
Pleiades. Yeah,
You got to think that there's planets. There's got to be life somewhere closer to them than us.
sure.
Um, and why here of all places? Do you think that there's a significance to Earth, or maybe they have a chip in the game? They altered their DNA. Are we some sort of experiment?
Um, Very interesting. Um, well, I that's one of my favorite subjects. Okay, why are they here? And there's lots of different reasons why they are here. Uh, what I tried to do with my books is to investigate from our viewpoint, the viewpoint of humans,
Right,
why they might be interested in us.
right.
And I looked at a whole lot of things from um, from nuclear plants to dumping sewage into water systems to dumping toxic waste into the air uh, to Native Americans, um, to army bases, to just virtually everything. And I tried to look at each particular state as I went through it and investigate all of those varying things. In some states, it seemed like, geez, I could almost make a case for a little bit of uh, extra attention to the Air Force bases. And then in um, another place, then there was no connection to to Air Force bases. The attention may have been to nuclear plants. And then in yet another state, it's because of perhaps earthquakes. Eh, Well, what I found when I went across the whole country and looked at all the data that I came up with, there were no glaring individual things that was going on that would be um, um, directly responsible for them traveling across the cosmos and visiting us here. So, why are they here? Um, the only reason they could be here uh, is because they have an agenda, and their agenda happens to be different from ours. And their agenda could very well be that one or more civilizations are interested in taking us um, to task and creating human hybrids. Um,
See, that's one of the things that I've thought about is the hybrid theory, because I think it's got a lot of volition to it. They always talk about how, similar that humans are to the rest of the world in terms of DNA, but they never talk about how different we are, because there is a genome that sets us completely apart from any other entity on this planet. And that's where the intelligence came from, or at least that's my hypothesis. But then they say, Richard Doty's testimony in several films has said that there's a one specific genome that we share with certain extraterrestrials. and that could be the key to why they're here. And I think that's got a really, because that answers the question: where did we come from? Okay,
Mhm.
right there. We start not checking these off the box, right? Two questions that have pondered humans all throughout, since we could think is, what happens after we die, and are we alone? If we answer one of these questions, that's historic.
Sure,
And by
sure.
answering one, we may possibly answer both. Who's to say that these beings don't know, like, what the true nature of the universe is? I think there's so many cool things to think
Um,
about with the UFO subject and extraterrestrials, and um, I mean, you've had fun with it, and can you talk about any fun, great experiences you've had, whether at conferences or people you've met in the community?
I'm not sure what you're referring to, Ty. I don't know what
Um,
you mean.
so do you have any experiences from like conventions that stick out, like people that you've met throughout this time in the UFO community that you've made connections with?
Quite a few people. One of my favorite people in the world um, is an astronomer, and he goes out of his way to think very clearly. That's Mark D'Antonio. I love the way he takes problems apart, and Mark has always been a favorite. He's a really good guy. Um, but
That's awesome.
yeah, Mark is one of the best. He's also on quite a few of the UFO shows on TV.
Right. The ancient. Do you watch that the ancient alien stuff?
Yeah, I
Do you
watch everyone only because I'm asked about them all the time.
Now, what do you think about that? I mean, there is some remarkable similarities, and I'd love to hear what you think about, the ancient alien theory. And because, I mean, there was a Russian version of it as well, I believe, right? Cosmetism or something like that.
Um, I'm not familiar with that,
Yeah, there was
but
some Russian form of it.
okay. I would say that a great majority of what they have come up with seems to me to be true. I wouldn't
Okay,
say that 100% is, but it's also fascinating how they packaged it up into one great big package and say,
right.
this is what we think. And I've just found that very interesting.
They definitely have a great formula. I really, with the core of it, right? So the core of the ancient alien theory is that the Anunnaki, they are responsible for humans, and then there's, basically what they're saying is that everything else, whether it's the Bible or any of these religions, all have stories that are very similar, and can all be traced back to that ancient Sumerian cuneiform, the stories about the Anunnaki. And I really like it. I think there's a lot of similarities. There's a lot of things that I would love to know more about, and have it factual, have the mainstream science actually look into it. Because my problem with mainstream science is I feel like they are the church. They're the church from the time of Galileo, and they're afraid to look through the telescope and see what the universe actually is. They're stuck in their ways.
Interesting. Um, yeah,
I mean, well, I'm sorry to interrupt, but
no,
look
go
at what
ahead.
happens when Avi Loeb even ponders the question of, could this thing be extraterrestrial? Could it be artificially made? And the mainstream science community totally ridicules him
Mm,
with
yeah,
Mawa, or
yeah,
whatever that thing, the
yeah,
interstellar rock was.
yeah.
Um,
Well, for one thing, that rock that came through, it was traced from outside of our solar system, completely outside of it, and the only The only actual conclusion is that it must have been from a different star system.
Right. I think one of the theories was that it was from it's frozen nitrogen from a like a planet, an exoplanet like Pluto or whatever they call. I think Pluto's an exoplanet, right?
Mm,
So
well, it
I forget
wouldn't
what they call it.
call it
There's
that,
an
but
yeah,
the Pluto's considered a planetoid now, not quite a planet.
planetoid.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've been watching NASA's Voyager stuff, but it's so
Yes.
interesting that it's getting some great pictures of Jupiter and all these these crazy just amazing images are coming in. Also from the James Webb telescope.
Yes. Oh yeah. Oh boy. I just love that. What I wish is that there was a place to go to see absolutely every single one of their pictures. Now, I know that there's a place to go to see most of them, but I'd like
Right.
to see absolutely every single one of them, um, not not cleaned up or anything. Just here we go. This is the
Right.
picture. Yeah,
This is it.
yeah,
There's that one picture that they got. This is from the original when they did it through the Hubble telescope. They
mhm,
pointed it at the darkest area in the eastern sky or southern sky,
yeah,
and they didn't expect to get anything back. And they got
mhm,
that amazing picture of
yeah,
you know, a bunch of universes. And then
yeah.
they recreated that picture with the James Webb, and it was so much clearer. And you
Oh yeah.
saw just a sliver of the universe, or just a sliver of the universe has like there's so many galaxies inside it, and you just realize how big and vast this place is.
It's really incredible. I'm in one of my blogs. Um, I wrote about the likelihood of life in the universe,
Okay.
and the number that I came up with was somewhere in the neighborhood of um, 1 times 10 to the 24th power,
Okay.
or one with 24 zeros.
Can you expand upon that?
Well, sure. Um, First of all, in our galaxy, there are approximately, like depending on who who does the calculations, there's I'm going to pick a middle number here. Is 200 billion star systems.
Okay.
Okay, 200 billion. Now, if we were to take that and think that our Milky Way is approximately an average sized galaxy,
Right.
which maybe it is, and there's um, 200 billion galaxies times 200 billion stars for an average sized galaxy. It'd be 200 billion, or 2 times 10 to the 11th
Right.
times 2 times 10 to the 11th would be 4 times 10 to the 22nd power, or a
Phew.
4 with
Jeez.
22. That's how many stars, and that's on the low side
That's
now.
the low side.
That's the low side, because it's probably an order of 100 greater. But
Right.
um, that's on the low side. That's how many stars are in the universe that
Now you
we
got to
can
think.
see. That's only
Right.
we
Right.
can see, okay? Um, and then you say, well, what's the average number of, um,
Planets.
well, what is the average number of uh, uh, suns that would have a planet around it that would support life? Well, what
Okay.
is it? 1 in 1,000? Say
Yeah.
it's 1 in 1,000. Well, what you do to calculate that is that you take 4 times 10 to the 22nd, and then you would subtract 3 from the 22, 29, 18, 10 to the 18th. So it'd be 4 times 10 to the 18th stars that have planets around them that are like the Earth.
It's
Uh,
oh my god.
the numbers are just absolutely
Staggering.
extraordinary.
Staggering. Oh
Yep.
my lord.
Yeah.
And now how many so what would be really cool to find out is because life is such a broad statement because microbial life is considered life, right? I wonder
Yeah.
how many intelligent life species or intelligent species among even that number. So now that we're going a little bit further with it, but even if it was 1 in 1,000, back to that, that's
hmm
still a lot. That's still a
Oh,
shit ton.
yeah. Oh, no fooling. Yeah, if it's, let's say, 1 in 1,000 that had intelligent life on it, then you just take 1,000 or 10 to the third away from the number you had, which was 10 to the 18th, and it'd be 10 to the 15th. It's still pretty big. So, the numbers are just beyond what a human can understand or calculate.
I can't even comprehend it.
Oh, I know.
It's
I know.
and now, for me, I don't play into the factionalism of ufology, but I'd like to get your point. Being a veteran of this subject, do you see what's going on with like the Lou Elizondos and the Chris Mellons and the factionalism between the threat narrative that's being presented
Yeah,
by those
I don't
individuals?
I don't buy into any of that. I have my own opinions, and I just respect that everybody else has an opinion too, and I don't even get into it. I don't argue. I don't
Right.
discuss. I don't do anything. Here's what I think, and that's the end of it.
So,
If you
do,
like me, that's fine. If you don't, well, believe somebody else.
right, right.
Yeah.
Now, do you think what they're basically presenting is that because it's unknown, it's a threat. Now, do you think there's any evidence to suggest that these UFOs or whatever's being seen are a threat?
For me, no, I do not believe that at all.
Right, and that's what I think as well. Now, I
Mhm.
that's why I don't. I like Lou Elizondo. I love all those guys, but I really have a hard time thinking that these things are malevolent or
Yeah.
uh, with ill intent.
There's one thing you have to understand. Um, Lou Elizondo was his job was threat assessment, and he had to say that if indeed something were to enter our atmosphere in huge numbers, they could literally do whatever they wanted to do to us.
Right, and
And he has to consider uh, every single um, every single contact in that regard. So um, don't take too much by what he says if he uses the word threat. Um,
right,
that's his language. So
okay,
um,
and that's true. That's actually a really good point. You were in the Navy, you get it. You know, I guess that's right. They do have to consider everything as a potential threat.
so
So
sure,
then, then on the opposite aisle, we have the Stephen Greers of the community. Now, I don't
yeah,
know how you,
yeah.
I don't know how
Ugh.
you. So, do you think CE5 is something that is actually working?
Yeah. Um, I have a story to tell you about CE5.
Okay,
Now, I personally have never been to a CE5 event.
okay,
Okay. However, when I was writing for a large portion of the time um, that I was actually putting words on the paper, I
hmm
was getting up at 3 in the morning because my mind was going 1,000 miles an hour. And For a for a portion of that time, I would wake up at 3 in the morning with what seemed to me to be somebody's voice in my ear.
No way.
Yeah, I didn't know who, I didn't know what, and they were there for a long time before I started paying attention.
What's
But
that
one of the
like?
pardon me?
What's that like to have some weird voice in your head?
Um,
I bet that's uncomfortable.
well, I guess that's one way to put it. Um,
Or
it was
annoying.
unsettling, um, because I had never experienced anything like that before.
Right. Okay,
And
so continue, I'm
I
sorry.
I would imagine that, it was, to, um to someone else, very similar to what happens when you are first, um, um, experiencing, uh, schizophrenia,
Right.
'cause the,
And
voices in your head, you know?
right. Yeah, that would be yeah, I don't even know what I would do.
I
So
wasn't sure, and what I did for the longest time was to ignore it. And then it got a little bit more, um, what's the word? Forceful, and they almost made me listen. So anyhow, this voice that was in my head, one morning, in among one of the other mornings, uh, that they were just driving me crazy. But this one morning, they wanted to talk about CE5, and what they told me was,
oh no.
Tom, you don't need, uh, to sit with a group and meditate or anything else. All you need to do is ask us.
Get out of here.
I swear that's what they said.
They
Um,
said that no, but that would lay credence to the fact that Dr. Greer actually did establish some sort of contact
that's right.
protocol.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a big
He
huh.
he thought that, of course, and he did it. I think, in my opinion, he went in that direction so that he could, um, include more people.
Right.
Because if he said, "I'm making contact myself, you're on your own,"
Right. They call him
then
a crackpot.
yeah. Plus, it wouldn't it wouldn't further his organization, because
Right.
then it's just
And
about him.
right, right. And
You
he's
know,
a that's one of the biggest things that people say is about Dr. Greer is, oh, he charges for everything. And it's like, well, I mean, he's running a business at this point.
that's what he's doing.
And
Yeah,
and yes, that you could look at that and say that's shitty that he's doing that. But I mean, the guy, it's not like even I'm sorry to say this because I know you're an author and I don't mean to offend anybody, but the people in the UFO community, they write books, they make shows,
of
they
course.
all do it. They
Yeah.
all charge for things. It's
Hmm.
okay.
Yep. Yep.
And but that's like I want to dive into that because so you don't need to meditate. All you have to do is ask. Because I've been trying CE5. I did a meditation this morning. I've been doing it for a couple days now. I haven't had any contact or anything like that, but I did have a really freaky experience this morning where I saw my mother. She died last year, and
Hmm.
tear tears flowed into my eyes. I couldn't control it. It wasn't me crying. They just showed up. I wasn't
Hmm.
sad or anything like that, but tears just came out of my eyes and it was very uncomfortable and I snapped out of it rather quickly. Um
Yep.
but I assume that I'm supposed to stay there next time. I don't know.
Um, could be. I wrote something the other day. I posted this on Facebook. Um, and um, okay, let me read it to you. I'm gonna turn the light on here. Okay. If you see ghosts, you're also seeing UFOs.
Huh.
But think about that. If you see ghosts, you're also seeing UFOs. If you're seeing UFOs, you're also seeing ghosts. You have
Interesting.
to, what you need to do to see both is to give yourself permission to see them.
Give yourself permission to see them.
Yeah. Like, um,
So allow
uh,
your third, some other part of
yeah,
you.
just allow yourself to be open enough to see and to understand, and as that happens, you will grow exponentially.
You know, d- does it make you wonder at all about, what happens after this world? I always start to question, because you compared ghosts and not compared them, but you put them in the same bucket, right? The paranormal and the otherworldly.
Yeah,
Are they
yeah,
connected?
yeah.
What does it have to do with us as a species, us as a conscious being?
Okay. Well, um, the way I understand it is that um, ghosts are our souls that are operating at a higher frequency.
That's a very interesting theory.
That's the
Huh.
same way that the UFOs work. They operate
Operating.
at a different frequency. They can change their actual operating frequency and disappear. That's how they do
And,
it. They
and
go
that's what
into
you
a
see.
different dimension. Yeah,
That's
yeah.
what you see on most of these, some of these credible videos, the ones that have been looked at by other people and, deemed authentic. You
Hmm.
see these things fold into time space
Oh, yeah.
or space time. Space time. I'm sorry,
Space time.
I dyslexiaed that one. uh, but they fold into space time and they're there and then they're gone.
Yeah, that's pretty much what they do. That is
Now,
what they do.
Now, do you think meditation allows us to, or some form of, you know, because they talk about astral projection and remote viewing? We
Hmm.
know the U.S. government successfully looked into remote viewing and possibly
Hmm.
still uses it.
I'm sure they do. Yeah, yeah.
There's because if they did a hard study on this, and there's that who was the remote viewer that was famous? There was one that was he was rather famous. I forget his name. It doesn't really matter, but
I don't
um,
remember.
have you ever looked into these abilities and if there's anything to it?
I have never done that because I would have to do a better job at meditation, and I don't meditate very well.
It's hard. It's
It's
hard to
very hard.
people don't realize how hard
Mhm.
because people once you try to start meditating, you'll realize how many distractions you have in your life.
Yeah.
Like the dog, you wouldn't even think about it. But my dog, every time I sat on the floor to meditate, he would come over and put his nose on my hand.
Mhm.
Distraction right there.
Yeah.
You taken
Yep.
right out of it.
Yep.
So and then other little things like, oh shit, I forgot to do this. It's just, and then you get to it and you have to clear your mind. It's impossible.
You're right. It is. It
It's
really
all it's
is.
almost impossible.
Yep. It takes a great deal of effort, and also takes a special kind of person to be able to shut it off.
Right. To
Yeah.
disconnect from this
Yeah.
world.
I
Um
hear the comments all the time from people telling me how I should meditate. They'll tell me, "Oh, you should meditate more." No, I shouldn't, because um, I'll start thinking about how much I have to do, and why I'm not doing what I'm doing, and have excuses for things about not doing what I should be doing, and I get zero meditation done.
right. And you're operating on the sense that these things are at a different frequency. If you
Yeah,
allow yourself to see them, you'll see them.
yeah, yeah.
Meditation not
But
needed.
but um, these are people who can change their frequency by thinking of it. What I've always done is, um, especially when I realized that I was actually seeing ghosts, is that I would just relax while I was in an area that maybe um, had lots of ghosts in it. Is that I would just go in and just relax and allow myself to see what happened to be there.
Now,
That's
I
when I
used to
realized I saw ghosts, and not too long afterward, I realized that I was seeing UFOs too.
now what's that like when you finally open up to it? And because I've never seen a ghost, but is it it didn't scare you at all?
No, no, it didn't, because I knew that they were there. I just wasn't seeing them.
Right. Now, are you seeing people of your past? Or are you seeing people
No,
of
no, I just seeing people from somebody else's past. I haven't seen anyone from my past.
interesting? Because
Yeah,
at that point, you know it's not an illusion because you've never met these people ever.
yeah,
So it can't possibly be you going crazy or
hmm
you seeing things
yeah.
because they're not things that you know.
Yeah, or wanting to see my favorite Aunt Tilly or something like that.
Right.
If if I was looking to do that, and something caught my eye out of the corner, oh, there's Aunt Tilly over there.
Right.
That's those are people who give themselves suggestions that they are seeing ghosts.
Yes,
But
and that could then you're prone to seeing it.
then you'll see all kinds of stuff that may or may not be ghosts.
Right.
Yep.
What's been your experience with the stigma? Has anyone ever looked at you the wrong way, or not wanted to engage with you because of your beliefs?
Um, I've got some feelings from some people in my family, my brother and my sisters, who said to me, I guess it's possible, um, but I've never seen anything.
Yeah.
And that's their definitive statement, uh, as if to say, well, since I've never seen anything, then how could you possibly be seeing anything? And um, but at the exact same time, as soon as they hear what I'm saying, they'll start asking me questions about it, as if
Mm,
they know it's possible, but they've never seen something and they want to know how to.
right.
So yeah,
Right.
I've gotten a lot of that kind of feedback.
Yeah, my father is a very hard disbeliever, and
Hmm.
every time I do a podcast with someone, I'm sure he's going to even mention you now, because every podcast I do, he always sends me a bunch of messages saying this person is this is that, all of this is fake. It's not. It's nonsense. It's
Yeah,
not real,
yeah,
and you kind of want to get aggravated and get mad about it, but at the same time, it's like I don't even care. I just don't care what you think,
yeah. Um,
because I know. I've had 20-year military veterans cry in front of me about what they saw.
mhm.
I take their testimony at heart, at face value, because they're like another thing. What do you think about NASA, and how because a lot of astronauts come back saying they saw things.
And they have, yeah.
Why does
Um,
NASA what this that would wouldn't that be a good thing for NASA? If wouldn't that get them more funding? Like, I don't understand why the secrecy has been like this.
well, I think early on, and by early on, I mean the 40s, 50s, and maybe even the 60s.
Right.
If
Roswell.
yeah, if all of that stuff was released, I think it would scare a whole lot of people. If people are pretty smart and they've caught on, and they realize that there's been a cover up, and now they've gotten to the point where um, they're going to be saying, um, you know, uh, I actually think that this is probably true.
Right.
And a lot of people have the exact same opinion as you
Do you think
at this point.
right.
But there's still that group of people who will go out of their way to tell you that you have lost your mind, that
Mhm.
this can't possibly be happening because, after all, we can't get there. So why could they come here?
Exactly. Yeah, 100%.
You know?
And
And what I say to that is that, well, okay, that would very well be true if their civilization was only maybe 500 to 1,000 years ahead of ours.
right.
But what if it were 3 million?
Yeah.
Then what? Could
Yeah.
they then? And a
There
lot of the time, the people who are responsible for putting out those those thoughts are the religions.
yeah, and that's very true.
And they're saying, well, um, we're made in God's likeness, which is fine, and we are um, um, we are special, and it can only be us. Although they never really said that, they did say that we are something special, and that uh, they aren't all over the universe like this because we're so special, and
Right.
God loves only us. Now, if you stopped and thought about God, then um, your your um, your relationship with God and praying to God would be drastically different if there were 3 times 10 to the 17th inhabited planets.
Right. Right.
Then, how does God handle all these comments at the same time from all of
Right.
us?
Right.
It's you know, and then there'd be a whole lot of backpedaling. And well, there must be helpers, and just sort of the Santa Claus routine. There's got to
Yeah.
be helpers, and maybe God has elves. There's got to be the angels helping.
Yes,
And
yeah.
it gets a little crazy after a while. But
Yeah.
but
I fell off of I felt as a young boy, when I was introduced to religion, I rejected it very, very quickly. Because I was like, wait, a human is telling us this?
yeah,
I don't buy it. I
yep,
don't buy it.
hmm
I don't buy it at all.
yeah, I know.
Uh, but there's other things, of course. But I think it's really interesting because I think they just got it a little bit wrong. We are special. We are special because there's life.
hmm
That makes it special.
Yep,
That's all we need. We don't need
yep,
a god. What we need is, I understand why religion was created. It gave people a way to cope with death, and it gave them a way to live an ordinary but special life at the same time because it
yeah.
was a religious life. That was needed then. It's not needed now. And I think it's time to wake up to the fact that maybe we aren't as special as we thought, and that's okay. It's
hmm
okay. It's okay to not be the number one. It's okay to not be no one's not everybody's Tom Brady. You can't. Not everybody can be Tom Brady. Okay, we
Yep.
have to be okay with being, Vince Wilfork sometimes. So it's not a bad life. So I think in order to peacefully exist with these other species, when we can't even exist with ourselves, that's going to be a problem.
Yeah. Um, Ty, I always believed that even though I think that the traditional um, description of what God um, is just so drastically wrong, but it doesn't preclude me from believing in God. I
Right.
think there really is a God. There's a
Supreme
top
being.
end supreme being. Absolutely. And I think that a whole lot of the things that are going on, what we are realizing as living, praying to, and whatever else, are our own spirit guides.
Right. And there's something there, this isn't just all for nothing.
No,
There's no way. There's no
nope,
way.
nope. And
I don't buy it.
our job on this earth now is to learn and become good people. And sometimes we have to have multiple stays on the earth in order to get better and better at things. Others maybe
Ah,
only have several stays to do that. And I do firmly believe in reincarnation.
I love getting down and gritty about reincarnation
Hmm.
because I think it makes total sense in the
Sure.
grand scheme of it.
Yeah.
Not the way that what is it, Buddhism that believes in it?
I think they do. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
But they
Yeah.
but they think, if you're a bad person, you come back as like an ant. I don't believe that. I
Well,
believe
that might
that,
be a little much, but
yeah,
yeah.
that's
Yeah.
crazy. But
Yeah.
I think the reason we have instincts or deja vu is because we do have to live several lives on earth before we can, maybe we have to let ourselves fall back into the water of the universe, right? We become one with the universe again, but we do a couple stays on earth in a vessel to get to achieve that.
Sure.
Something like that. But that would be, you know, it just makes sense, right? There's only so much energy on Earth. It's constantly being recycled. Maybe our souls are
Mhm.
being recycled.
I would not be surprised. And I also would not be surprised if um, if the people who are existing now on the planet are beginning to learn that they can increase their own frequency of vibration so that they can access the dimensions that our visitors are already accessing,
Right.
that um that um is just a matter of time before uh the visitors uh begin to become part of us, and we begin to see that we are existing differently than some of the other people that we are right alongside, and we help them along. And
Right.
some of the people who are put onto the earth um, are here to help in that regard. In
Hmm.
other words, they are from a different dimension and put on the earth in order to guide um, the earthlings who have never transitioned before.
Right.
I believe that's one of the main reasons
That they're
why
here.
they are here right now.
I I love that. That's so because that makes, you know when I was growing up, I was like, I always thought, wow, this is so beautiful. This, whatever this is, it's so beautiful, but it's so boring. But when we start thinking about all this, it becomes magical. It
Sure it does.
becomes,
Yeah.
right. It brings that new spark to
Hmm.
to this planet, this pale blue dot. And I think it's like being a child again and learning to walk. Right, we have
Hmm.
to fall a couple times.
Sure. Have you heard the term starseed?
Starseed. I've heard the term, but I'm not too familiar with it.
Well, that's pretty much what it was referring to. Those who may have existed already um, within a fourth dimension density, or whatever you want to call it, um,
Right.
that were put here in order to help along the remainder of the planet. And there's
Huh.
thousands of them sprinkled all over the planet in order to help.
In order to help, would you know if you were one of them?
There, if you could go on to Facebook, well, no, you don't even have to go on Facebook. Google it, Starseed, and start reading. There are probably 15 different questionnaires, how to tell if you're a starseed.
Oh wow,
Some
there
of them
is.
are pretty general, and they apply to anything drawing breath, and it kind of loses any specialty to it. But there are some of those that are a little bit more specific, that only a few people would would answer truthfully yes to the questions, and
Right.
these are the ones that you can tell are the star seeds that have been put here from a different planet.
Yeah. So I have the starseed stuff here. This is the Wikipedia page, but it's not exactly what I wanted. So never mind about that. We'll look into that. I want to know more about that. Do you think it's, if you had to, if you had to put your money on it, that's what you'd say is that, your theory for all of this is that they've been here, they have direct, uh, uh, you know, they're directly involved with us, yet we just don't know it yet. And they're gonna. Why is it? Do you think we'll see them reveal it anytime soon? Any? I don't know if enough of the population is ready.
No, I don't know that either, and that's one great big question mark. I'm hoping that I see that before I pass away. Um,
Well, you'll be moving
and
on to the next life, is
yeah,
what you will be.
yeah.
How old are you? How old are you now?
75.
So, how old were you when Roswell happened? You must have been just born,
I was
right?
born. Yeah, I was born that year.
Wow.
Hmm.
Wow, that's so wow. So you've
Yeah,
seen you are the UFO uh life. Like you're the span of the modern UFO era.
that's pretty much it. Yeah.
You've seen everything from the Phoenix Lights to Roswell. Well, Roswell, you were a baby, but you lived through it, so we'll count it. But all of these events, is what's the one that sticks out the most? Like for events that were mass sightings or something, you know, or was it the 2017 article with the video?
Well, I think one of the things that stands out the most is this happened in a town in South Africa, I think, where a ship landed.
With
And
that's the aerial school,
yeah, yeah, and these beings um, showed themselves to children. I
right?
think that was the most significant event to happen to date.
Wow. Because a lot of those kids were, they still talk about it. Well, they just started talking about it again, and they say that they had got messages to treat our planet accordingly. Um, does this war in Ukraine scare you at all?
No, just a couple of assholes that can't get their stuff together. I don't have any any thoughts about it. Um, Putin's going to do what he's going to do, and he thinks he's right, and he isn't. He's just an idiot, and um, I
I
don't
was
know that.
hoping, I was
What?
hoping one of his cabinet members would just kill him already.
Um, I think it might be a little too early for that, but I would not be surprised down the road if he
Yeah,
does something like massively stupid, like um, uses a low yield nuclear weapon on something, then then um, then somebody will whack him. There's no doubt about that in my mind.
because honestly, Tom, I'm very, very nervous because we cannot, us as a species, as a human species, not as a black guy, not as a white guy, not as a Asian person or Filipino. There's nothing to it. As a human civilization, we cannot move forward on the notion of mutual assured destruction. That
Hmm.
is no way to go. We cannot live with the thought of, okay, I'm not going to kill you because I don't want you to kill me. That's not going to work going forward.
Now it worked for a while because we didn't know what else to do, and it's something we worked out, and it kept us out of a global war. But
We need to shut every nuclear weapon off
yeah,
and throw
yeah,
them away.
yeah, that's nice to say, but if if somebody does that, such as the Soviet Union, then it's obvious that all of a sudden they go to being a third-rate power. They have nothing to support their own military.
Well,
So
why?
they're not
Well,
likely to get rid of them.
at this point, who's going to invade Russia without, say Russia took their nuclear weapons offline? Who's going to go invade Russia?
Well, you can't tell them that no one's going to invade them
Yeah,
because
no, I
you know
understand that.
that's the biggest issue.
I just, this thing about pointing missiles at each other, and just not pushing the button yet. It scares the shit out of me because
Sure.
I don't like it. I just don't like it.
Hmm.
And I do you. I mean, do you know the stories about UFOs over nuclear weapons facilities?
Sure.
What's the connection there?
Um, well, I think that they're really they were concerned about what we were going to do with them, and what they wanted to do was start probing our systems to try to figure out how they could send a message. By probing the systems, they found out how to turn them off, and they
And
also found out on one instance how to retarget them, and that scared the crap out of everybody.
do you think that so do you think that they were sending messages to these people? And do you think they constantly send messages to these people? Like, just because you think you can push that button doesn't mean it's going to work.
Yeah, pretty much. They they are in constant contact with humans from
Interesting.
um, varying
Degrees.
countries,
And
and they make their thoughts known.
I think we're safer because of it. I really
I
do.
think we are too. Yeah,
And honestly, I'll be 100% honest. Because the other day we were talking about, just because this is the deadliest conflict in Europe since World War II. And it could be a little frightening for people. Um, but like, as a guy who's your age, Tom, you've seen a lot of conflict in your life. Um, it's sad to say that this is just a part of what the world that we live in right now. But there is some hope, because there clearly is someone up there, and they have a direct, they have some sort of chip in this game, because they're here and they're not going away, for some reason.
yeah.
They're only actually being seen more. So uh, I don't know.
I think one or two possibly of the civilizations that are visiting, and I actually think there's hundreds, but one or two of them have been with us for hundreds of thousands of years, and have been tinkering with our DNA. These are the ones that really don't want anything to happen because of all the work that they did to get us to this point.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Now, so before we, because we're about at that time, but I do want to get into a couple more things. Um, and again, I would love to have you back on. I with the first time is always a lot of questions, but then from there we can start diving into specific things each time. But
sure.
what do you think about abductions?
Um, what do I think about it? Well, I
Well,
think that they are abducting certain groups of people, and that they are targeting DNA strings like families, to learn how uh, how the DNA interacts with their own DNA or whatever they're concocting.
Okay.
Um,
So you think abductions aren't real?
they are real.
I've talked to, I mean, Cheryl Costa.
Yeah.
She's a great friend
Hmm.
now, and she's actually the one who gave me your email.
Yeah.
And she talks about abductions and knows they're real. She knows they're real.
Hmm.
I don't. So I like to probe and ask people
Yeah.
because there's some people who don't. Like the Dr. Greers. They don't think abductions are real. They think, well, they think they're real, but they think the government's doing it. I don't think that. There's no way the government is abducting people and posing as aliens.
Well, I would not be surprised if they were doing a little bit of that, but I also think that um, we're being looked at by definitely a higher power.
Okay. So just to clear that up, you do think that the government uses the UFO thing as a cover sometimes?
Sometimes.
I Richard Doty said that as well, and he
Yep.
was the guy from OSS,
I know.
OSI,
I
yeah.
know. Rich. I met him at
Did
one
you?
of the conferences. Oh yes. Yeah.
Uh,
Very
c-
interesting guy.
can you tell me did he seem like he was like a lying person, or did
Yeah.
he was he
No, he was very matter of fact. But then again, his job was to lie.
right? And that's the hardest part.
Yeah, so you become pretty good at that, and then when when you're being told something, you don't know if he's just practicing his trade
Yeah,
or if he's telling you the truth. It's hard to say.
yeah. He's such a fascinating guy.
Oh, he
Another
really is.
one. Another one is Bob Lazar. I don't know if obviously you know who Bob Lazar is. You watched that whole thing go down. What's your take on his story, and is it true?
I believe it is.
There is a lot of things that have been vindicated. Element
Yeah,
115 is one of them.
yeah, yep, yep.
So have you ever got the chance to meet Bob?
No, I have not.
I would
I've
love
never been
to.
to a Matter of fact, he doesn't go to very many conferences. And he doesn't speak at them. And it's because a great deal of the people um, who are UFO conference goers think that Bob Lazar is telling stories um, because the government tried to shut him down. Um, and there's so many people still within MUFON who think that he was just not truthful.
Yeah, I
No.
I'll say something about MUFON real quick. They are very, 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 very blunt in their belief. Um, they don't. They think everyone's lying, and then like I feel like they think everyone's lying, and then if it's an interesting case, then they might change their mind. But in my experience and seeing MUFON's assessments of things, they don't think very much is real.
Yeah, I've seen some pretty good assessments from some of the MUFON investigators, and I've also seen some very poor ones.
I guess that comes with the
Yeah.
territory, right? Nonprofit.
Yes, because I think they're told to err on the side of "No, you're dreaming," um,
Right.
and a lot of them take that to
Right,
to the extreme.
because there are let's be real. In the UFO community, there is a lot of bullshit. There is a lot of bullshit
Yes,
that you
there
have to
is.
wade
Yes,
through.
there is. Yep, yep,
So, unfortunately, again, it comes with the territory.
yep.
Yeah, you know,
A great
you learn to
deal
separate it.
of the BS that is happening, um, it's surrounding what people happen to be writing.
How so?
Well, because every so often somebody will write something and draw a conclusion that has no basis in reality. and then you'll get a whole bunch of speaking engagements based on it, and sell a lot of books, and
Yep.
then they may go on the outs with them, or they may even write another book and go through the process again. Uh,
Right.
the people that have the really good um, organization to promote them are the ones that get the attention.
Yeah, and unfortunately, the guys like Bob Lazar who don't do anything for money,
Hmm.
who have never ever been paid about their story. If anything, they've only suffered. Um, Bob, he doesn't get as much attention
Hmm.
as these other things because because he doesn't go on the lecture, because he doesn't keep himself relevant, and that's sad. Because there are a lot of charlatans and grifters in this community. For Linda Moulton Howe, I dislike a lot.
I love Linda. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, she does the cattle mutilations, right?
Yes. Yep.
So you got Linda Moulton Howe, you got Nick Pope. I like Nick Pope from the Ministry of Defense.
I've always liked Nick. I like
He's a
listening
little
to him talk, uh, but he gets a whole lot of negative press. I don't understand it,
uh,
um,
yeah.
but he does get a lot of negativity.
I think once, honestly, and this is an honest thing. I think once you go on Ancient Aliens, people start thinking, "Oh, this guy." The people think about us. They say, "Oh, if you believe one thing, you believe everything." But
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
there's a lot of shit that I don't believe. Like a
Oh,
lot
I
more
know.
than I do. But people judge you before they even know, so they think, "Oh, this guy believes in anything. He just believes whatever he's told." That's not the case. Um,
That's why I stay out of the fray. I don't care if somebody says something negative about me. I could care less. I have an opinion. I'm going to express it based on research. If you don't like it, well, tough. That's fine.
Yeah, you
But
did the research.
I don't have anything to say that's not based on a preponderance of the evidence that I've seen. Uh, I just have nothing to say in that regard.
Now, before we go, if you had to give a message to the world, it was the final thing that you could tell people about this extraterrestrial presence on Earth. Uh, how would you tell
Wow.
someone who doesn't know?
Okay. Wow. Um, I would
So,
say that um, the greatest majority of what is happening now um, in the uh, in the news is based on um, based on the actual truth. There's a certain portion of it that is not based on truth, and that people make up.
okay,
Um, that's unfortunate, but it happens to be true.
okay.
Uh, as far as the UFO world goes, I think that what is being said on the periphery of the subject matter is all nonsense. What is true happens to be a kernel right in the middle. That's what I'm trying to get to, and that's what I want people to believe. To try to drown out the fluff. Do your work. Look at who's doing the research and look at what those people are saying. This is where the truth lies.
I think that's a great statement. I think a lot more people need to um, stop getting caught up with the minute details of this and
Mhm.
start looking at the big picture.
Yeah, oh,
Uh,
absolutely. And the big picture happens to be um, not one particular sighting that some some investigator will say, well, let's see, Venus was in that area and the moon was up, and I'm sure that you got a glimmer from your eyes that you thought you
Yeah,
saw something and it was all
yeah,
nonsense. You know,
right,
it isn't that, okay? Um, the 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 big picture happens to be the quantity of sightings that um, that are being seen by the mass of the population, and that number
right.
is probably in the 170,000 since 2000.
And that's so, you talked to Cheryl about all the sightings and the
Hmm.
data that she has.
Yeah.
Um, it's staggering to
Oh, it
there's
is.
so the the and that's the thing, it used to be on the UFO community to prove that it was there. I think it's shifted now to the general public proving it isn't, because there is so there's so much more proof and evidence. We can lock someone up for murder with the evidence that we have
Hmm.
in a court of law. If we had this many eyewitnesses, we could put someone in jail for the rest of their life, or potentially have them executed. That's
Easy.
how much that's how much evidence we have.
Sure.
Yet it's still looked at in this stigmatized way.
Hmm.
So yeah, I think what you said is beautiful. Definitely, people need to start looking at the bigger picture. Tom, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I know it's a weird Sunday night show, but I really appreciated the time.
This was great fun. Your questions were wonderful. It got me thinking. So
Yeah,
yeah,
you
I can't wait to
actually
be on again.
yeah, you actually opened my eyes to something. I'll be on if I'm gonna be super this is a post. I'm gonna put this on the post end of it. But um I think my problem with maybe the contact portion of it is I honestly but I've been thinking about, so I've been writing this script for Betty and Barney Hill's abduction, and I think abduction's been in my mind a lot, and it can be a little bit scary. So at night, when all the lights are off and stuff, and you see things out of the corner of your eyes, in my head with what I've been working on, you kind of get a little bit nervous. But I think I need to shatter that. I need to stop being nervous about anything, because maybe that's been hindering me somewhat.
Um, well, yeah, I did a lot of abduction
Because what you said,
interviews,
well, no, no, no.
and
What
yeah,
with what you said, uh,
it drove me crazy, and I had to stop doing them because I was having too many negative dreams.
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Is there's too much negative energy aside from
Mhm.
the abduction thing.
Yeah.
And if I was going to be abducted, I wouldn't be 30 when they started abducting me. I would have been 7 or whatever.
That's
Uh,
typical. Yeah.
yeah. So but my thought is, because you said you have to allow yourself to see them. You have to allow yourself to be open to it. But I think I've been shutting it off with the thought of abductions and the negative side of things. So
Yeah.
maybe if I start forgetting that, I'll be able to connect more smoothly.
Sure.
But
Ask.
again,
All you have to do is
um,
ask.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I love that little story that the just ask, no meditation, just ask.
Mhm.
Uh, Tom, so what are the books and where can people get them?
Okay. Well, the books, they are here, volume one, two, and three. Um, they are available on Amazon.
Okay.
Um, the fourth book I wrote happens to be called Going Interstellar, and that's a collection of blogs. This book,
Yes, I saw that
going
one on Amazon.
yep, Going Interstellar, and that is a if you don't understand how UFOs could potentially get here, I go through all of the problems that we would have if we tried to go there versus them coming here.
Right.
And I addressed all of those particular problems, and they were uh, very, very difficult to explain at times um, because I had to go through the physics involved, and it made it really rough. but I tried to keep it just as simple as I possibly could so that everybody would get something out of it. I also, for that particular book, Going Interstellar, I tried to keep it as cheap as possible so that everybody would go out and buy it. It's only $10 on Amazon.
I saw that. I was excited. I actually ordered it today.
Oh, good, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you're looking for something to ask questions of, oh boy, I mean, it's loaded. It is loaded.
Well,
And then,
I'll definitely be reaching out after I read it then.
okay, well, that's 4 books. My fifth book is
Oh, geez.
Earthquakes and UFOs.
Oh,
Okay,
I
and
like the I love the cover on that one.
oh yeah, it's pretty interesting. And yeah, the cover was done by a very good friend in Ireland,
Awesome.
and Um, I set out trying to prove that that UFOs were attracted to earthquakes, attracted to the energy around the earthquake, and I ended up proving something totally different.
Oh, I
Yeah,
well, I can't wait to explore all of this.
yeah,
I've been diving into the novelization of UFOs lately because I've run out of documentaries to watch. So,
yeah.
uh, Tom, thank you so much for coming on. I can't wait to have you back.
Okay, thanks. And if somebody wanted my books, they could visit the Sleepy Hollow. There's a UFO. Excuse me. There's a ghost convention in
Oh
Sleepy
shoot!
Hollow on Saturday, and my son
S-
will be there with my UFO map
Yeah,
along with all of my books. So
awesome. I'm gonna Sleepy Hollow. That sounds like you're going into a fictional world. So I
yeah,
can't wait. All right, man. Thank you so much. I can't wait to talk to you soon.
okay, thanks, Ty.
Of course.